We have multiple Toronto Maple Leafs updates to go over today as multiple new reports have dropped surrounding Auston Matthews and his injury status. We also have a bunch of other updates that have come out before a big game tomorrow. But we also have Auston Matthews come out and reveal the truth behind his injury. He spoke out about it for the first time. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, if you're part of the 70% who aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for your continued support as we're on the road now to, of course, 15,000 subscribers. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today. And Darius, a lot of news drop. We had a video earlier today surrounding trades, and now there are new reports dropping. There's injury reports flying, and quite frankly, there's a lot of stuff to go over today. But Auston Matthews, we have, I guess, some more clarity, to put it in an interesting way, on his situation, but it's not exactly what Leafs fans wanted to hear. So let's just dive right into it. There's a bunch of different things. So let's start with, of course, Auston Matthews. He said he is feeling better, but there is no timeline still on his return, and he will not play tomorrow, per Craig Berube. And there's some interesting quotes to go over as well. He is feeling better, and he spoke out a little bit. We only have the big quote here that fans are fired up about, but it's nice to still be around the guys and take part in practices. It's big. Just taking it day by day, feeling good, and getting better every single day. I'm going to continue hoping for positive progression and go from there. So there's just a lot to go over. We also have some other injury updates surrounding OEL because a couple of the players were missing in the last game yesterday, but it seems that there's still no timeline for Auston Matthews, and we kind of hit the nail on the head with this. It still seems like he's going to be out for at least an extended, a couple more weeks at the very least.
We also have to get into Hakanpää as well, because I think that's going to play a big factor into how fast the Leafs make a trade here, right? With Auston Matthews being out of the lineup as well. But it looks like they're continuing to take it day by day, kind of like his first stint, where it's, we don't know if he's going to play any given day, but it's day by day. Okay, he won't play tomorrow. He's not going to play this weekend. They're going to continue doing that. So I think it's a, excuse me, a very interesting situation right now. And the quote we're going to get into in a minute has really changed my mind on things because obviously it's good to see him back. And he was practicing as well, right? He's in an extra sweater today. He was back on the ice skating with the team, but he hasn't taken part in a full practice with full contact yet. So that is a little bit worrisome to me, but at least he's around, right? It looks like he's progressing to a degree, and he is starting to obviously skate and try and get back to work. But it's clearly still bothering him. It's something that was bothering him since training camp. It got re-aggravated. This is not necessarily great news for Leafs fans. And like you mentioned, we're going to get into a quote that's really changed my mind on things.
Yeah, and it is good that he is taking part in practice. We'll dive into the lines later in the video, but at least there's some progression here. But let's dive into the quote that has everyone fired up here. So Auston Matthews was asked whether rest will help move him past the injury he's been dealing with this season. I don't know. I hope so. That's obviously the goal. It's tricky with these things sometimes. Things happen out there that are out of your control. And obviously the first sentence of that has, Leafs fans concerned. There was a lot of, graphics made about just this quote here. So they basically asked him, is this going to continue to linger? Are you going to be able to fully recover, be 100% healthy, especially as the playoffs start to approach here? And his response to that was, I don't know, which is concerning because obviously he's dealt with injuries earlier on in the season. He obviously flew to Germany and then he came back hoping he'd be healthy. He hasn't played the same level of hockey that we know he's capable of and that he played last season. We all know he's capable of being better than what he has been, even though he hasn't been terrible or anything. But Darius, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to fully move past this injury at least this season or maybe even in general. And that's the big concern here, is not if he's going to be back in the middle of January, as if he's going to be back in the playoffs a few months down the line when things matter the most, or even into future years here. Now, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, obviously, but it's not the best response. You'd like him if he was actually feeling 100% and he was confident in what the injury was and how to treat it. He'd be like, okay, I'm good to go. But you pair this with the other thing here, saying that, hey, there's no timeline. I'm not entirely sure how I'm feeling. It becomes a little bit scary then. And hopefully this isn't something that lingers for a prolonged period of time.
Now, I do want to say, I do think that this reads a lot worse than if you were to watch it or if you were there in the media scrum, because sometimes those things, especially with an answer like that, and the way that Auston Matthews talks, might come across a little bit worse. But the second part of that is a little bit worrisome, right? I don't know if I'm going to get over it this season. So I've kind of said it in the past, the last couple of videos, last couple of weeks. I think I'm fully moving to shut this guy down for the season, put him on LTIR, and see where he's at come playoff time. Because if this is something, excuse me, that he's going to have to manage throughout the season until he gets to the playoffs, and then still in the playoffs, he's not going to be 100%. I don't think the Leafs should have any interest in doing that, right? It doesn't really make sense to me to have him just kind of lingering around all season, fighting off something. Give him a couple months off, see where he's at come playoff time. Use that cap space. You can weaponize that cap space if you're the Leafs to really upgrade in the areas that you need to, which is on defense, like we know now. They need another center, right? So a couple things they can do with $13 million. So I think I'm fully on that side now based on that quote. Because again, it's worrisome, right? Like I think a lot of Leaf fans were kind of like staying optimistic about it. I was trying to as well, but something like that doesn't sound too good. Am I going to get her over, over it this season? I'm not sure. I don't think that's great for Leafs fans.
Yeah, it's very concerning, and it becomes more and more complicated and convoluted surrounding his injury. And you hope that what he's dealing with is just something that he's going to get past and that we won't be talking about a few months down the line. But if they're going to have to put him on LTIR, I mean, they haven't done it yet. And as you start to look into some of the other returns now, OEL is likely to return to the lineup tomorrow, which is actually big. He's had a bit of quiet down season. He's on track for his lowest amount of points since his rookie season. And obviously points aren't everything for a defenseman, but for someone who strides and prides himself on getting points and being a good offensive puck moving defenseman, I still think he's had a very solid season at his salary cap hit and the way that he's been able to kind of at least improve puck movement, especially defense, after we saw last season how bad it was in the playoffs, specifically against the Bruins after Brad Living added Ilya Labushkin and Joel Edmondson. But as you look at the lines now for tomorrow's game, Pacioretty, Tavares, Marner, Nyes, Kampf, Nylander, McMahon, Domi, Robertson, Lorentz, Dewar, and Reeves. And you have Matthews out there, but in a gray jersey, which kind of leaning to the fact that I'm not exactly sure if they're going to put him on LTIR at this point, or it might be a situation where they do it later. But Darius, what are your thoughts on these lines? We saw, a big game and a big win yesterday, but Connor Timmins is seeming to get the scratch, and they're going to pair Myers once again with Morgan Rielly, with Joseph Woll getting the start. So they're rocking Woll. Again, Woll is going to get the majority of the work here now over the handful of games and handful of weeks. But it's, again, these lines are very interesting, and you have to get to work without Auston Matthews in your lineup, and hopefully everybody continues to play well. And Jonathan Tavares has been one of the biggest shining stars of this season, not just for the Leafs, but across the NHL, given his age.
No, he's been fantastic. And just to circle back on Matthews for a second, I just want to clarify that, I'm saying that I think they should put him on LTIR the way that it's going right now. I don't know if they're necessarily going to do that. He's continuing to skate. He's out there at practices. He's not taking part in the physicality of it, but it sounds like they want him to, make a recovery and make a comeback here this season and shortly, right? It's going to come up here as he continues to progress. So we'll see how that plays out. But in terms of the lines, if you look at the defense, I don't think Philippe Myers is a long-term solution, but he has, as time's gone on this season and has gotten into more games recently, he's not that bad and he's filling a role. I can see why the organization likes him, right? He's filling a pretty good role there with Morgan Rielly right now. But again, I don't think he's a long-term solution. There's also Hakanpää, who I think is looking less and less likely like an option this season, and we may never see him play again at this point. He's trying to make a comeback, but that's going to be tough, especially at this point in the season, how much he's gone through as well. So it looks like they're going to have to maybe make a move there. And OEL, like you touched on, I mean, he's having a down season, I guess, for him. He's on pace for the lowest point total since his rookie season as well, right? But I think that he's added a different dynamic to this blue line, right? A little bit more physicality that we saw with the Florida Panthers last year, and the puck movement, like you mentioned. That's something that they needed help with in that department. And the Leafs offense from their defense has been a problem for a little while now. So I think that's something that they're going to pay a little bit more attention to detail with. We saw a change in that against the Islanders the other day in the afternoon game just before New Year's, because a lot of the guys were just throwing pucks on net. I think that they're, going to put a little bit more of a focus on that. So I think they'll be okay as they continue the season here. And I think that he has had some use. I know there's been a lot made out of that over the last couple of days, but I like OEL as a player for sure. But the lines are very interesting. They're still dealing with some injuries, and I wonder if some of the things that they're dealing with right now may make Brad Treliving pull the trigger on a trade a little bit earlier than the deadline, because we know as it gets closer to the deadline as well, prices will probably go up.
Yeah, I think moves are on the horizon. We're going to keep you up to date with all that. So let us know down below your thoughts are on the lines, thoughts on Auston Matthews speaking out in his injury and all of that. But thank you guys for watching. Let us know what your thoughts are. See you later.